There's a sign I look for to see if someone is healing from the huge scope of problems that are caused by growing up traumatized. And it's one you're almost never supposed to talk about. Now, it's true that one of the first steps of healing is to fully see that what happened to you was abuse, that you were hurt and it wasn't your fault. That's important to know, but the problems don't stop there. The reason trauma persists in this world, the reason it's so often passed from parents to children, is because people who were abused and neglected as kids can often, without realizing it, grow up and hurt the people around them. And if you have CPTSD and you've begun to heal, it's a sign of healing if you're becoming aware of that and feeling the pangs of your own conscience urging you to do something about that, about when you have hurt other people. My letter today is from a woman who commented the other day on my YouTube channel, and I'll call her Mila. And she writes, "Hi, Anna. I wish you could make a video on how one can forgive themselves when they've been emotionally abusive as a result of CPTSD. How can a person heal from the fact that they have bestowed their misery onto other people unknowingly, at least in my case? I'm still in my 20s. I could even say that I almost am a narcissist if I hadn't woken up." I'm circling some things I want to talk about with my fairy pen, and I will come back. I'm going to read Mila's comment all the way through, and then I'll come back and say some stuff about things I circled. She says, "I had an ex who put up with me for 3 years, and looking back, I really didn't give him the best treatment. I treat my acquaintances better," she says. "When I watch your videos about people crap fitting to toxic relationships," crap fitting is when you fit yourself to bad things, to crap. "When I watch your videos about people crap fitting to toxic relationships, I remember this guy. Only when he left me for good did I understand that I was the problem. It's been 2 years since the breakup. I wish I could have given him my best because he deserved it, even if it didn't work out in the end. I never have dated anyone since. I always felt like a terrible person and incapable of love. I felt like I don't deserve love because I wasted the opportunity, and I had a warm, pure love go down the drain. I also fear that no one will love me the way he did. But still, I want to share my life with someone, always. For context, my mom died when I was only 7. Then my dad left us siblings, all girls, to relatives where we suffered emotional and sexual abuse. The only thing that saved us was me being intellectually gifted. I was able to get paid scholarships, which helped us siblings finish school and be working professionals. So I'm someone who has a strong personality, and people say that men nowadays like soft women. And maybe this is the reason I feel I can't find anyone. I'm also studying to embrace femininity. I've pursued remote work to prepare for the possibility of motherhood, though I have not been dating actively. Thank you for reading, and your comments are very welcome." All right, Mila, I think I can help. How to forgive yourself. I just want to say that the fact that you have recovered enough that you're thinking back and going, "Oh, wow, I created problems and my ex did not deserve that." This is remarkable, beautiful recovery. This is progress. If you were emotionally abusive to your ex, and I don't know exactly what you did, but you say you didn't treat him well, you're not alone. A lot of people with CPTSD do that. And what so many of us would describe about how that ends up, happening is our dysregulation, emotional and neurological, really just sort of gets out of control. So something stressful happens, and, let's face it, relationships have stress, right? Sometimes you feel rejected. Sometimes you feel disappointed. Sometimes you feel like you've been left with all the responsibility. Sometimes you feel abandoned. And if you were traumatized, and my gosh, your mom died when you were 7, that's so much, Mila. That's an abandonment at such a core level. And then you got sent off to relatives and you were abused there. You're a miracle. You're a miracle walking around having relationships, getting scholarships, having a profession. This is so good, so amazing of you. And then there's this piece where through our trauma-driven behavior, through our unconsciousness while we were dysregulated, we hurt other people. And it's so confusing, isn't it? It's just so confusing. Now you're young yet. You're still in your 20s. And I promise you, if you carry on with the road of healing, you'll see more and more of this, and you'll know more and more about how to deal with it. It's to be able to be as far as you are in your 20s, it really is remarkable. And I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you. You're a survivor. You have come so far. So here's how you forgive yourself. You begin to become aware, as you are, how you may have hurt other people. And it can be hard to know sometimes, because sometimes we avoid responsibility a little too much. Sometimes we take responsibility a little too much. One thing that I have done before is like try to take so much responsibility, because at least if it's all my fault, then I, in theory, have some control over the problem. And if I just get rejected, like randomly again and again, I have no control over that, or that's the perception. And so I've always sort of been attracted to taking all the, all or none. It's never my fault, it's always my fault. So obviously neither of those is true. It takes two people to have a relationship, but he did leave you for good. And so it sounds like he didn't feel treated well enough. I think that's what you're saying. And it's not uncommon for relationships in our 20s, even for people who don't have CPTSD, to just last for a certain amount of time and then end. We don't always get it right the first time. So first, I just want you to trust that love is out there, love is possible for you. Love can only get better as you heal your trauma symptoms. We can't take away the fact that you lost your mom or the abuse that happened, but you can start to have healing of how those experiences have affected you, so that, with your mom, that fundamental abandonment and that terror that a 7-year-old girl would feel, that you start to have healing around that the way that it affected your nervous system and made you have to be so tough, right? So strong. Yeah. Thank God you were strong. Thank God you were strong, Mila. I'm a strong girl too. And believe me, we'll get to that. Strong is beautiful. Strong is good. Strong has this side to it that can be harsh, that can be kind of controlling, that can be sharp, abrasive, yes. But strong is strength. And with healing, strong becomes sturdiness, reliability, honesty, wisdom. So your ability, in my family, we had a lot of trauma, and everybody dealt with it a little differently, all the kids. And there's trauma also in some of my cousins' families and stuff too. You can just sort of look around, like people took on different roles. So I tried to be a super achiever. I got great grades. I relate to the story you're telling. And then later when I was about 30, everything just started to fall apart. I just couldn't do it anymore. And other people in my family, they just got into like drugs and alcohol, and they just gave up. Some of them got violent. Some of them committed crimes. Some of them just spaced out, just totally checked out and and didn't accomplish very much. So everybody handles it in different ways. I guess I feel grateful that my adaptation was to be controlling and try to get some money, because while we were all working out our trauma wounds, at least mine paid the rent, right? There's that. But it doesn't work in relationships. And eventually everybody's going to have to face their trauma wounds. And if they can, try to recover from them. So there's a softening that happens. There's a distinction that happens, some discernment between trying to make everything okay and trying to show up and be strong and allow things to fall into place in a way that includes other people's opinions and needs. Does that make sense to you? So that's not controlling. And so all my life, I've remained in something like the role of somebody who's a bit of a pillar. All right, now I want to talk about the love you experienced with this guy. So if it was that warm and pure, and you were 20 when you got into it, I just say hats off that you had a first relationship with somebody who was warm and where there was some pure love there. That's beautiful. That's good. It really is not all the love in the world. It feels like that. That's so much of the loss of mother wound talking, because there is no other mother. Can't get that back. But you can meet somebody new and somebody who fits you now. This guy, his mistake, his mistake was meeting you when you didn't have all this healing in place, right? You just weren't there yet. And I believe you. I'm just going to take you at face value that he didn't deserve the unkind way that you treated him. And I've done the same thing, and I know about that. So I believe very strongly in apologizing. When we know we've done something wrong, it takes some time to get very clear, like what was it exactly? And so this daily practice I teach where you put your fears and resentments on paper, it's a way that you can start like moving the bad feeling through about, because like feeling ashamed or guilty, that's resentment itself. So I'm resentful at myself because I have fear I treated this person badly, fear I said this, fear I ruined the relationship, fear, and I'm sort of shorthanding it because a lot of people watching have learned this technique. If you haven't yet, the course is free. It's down in the description section, the link, or you can go to my website, Crappy Childhood Fairy. The Daily Practice, that's the name, free course. You can learn and try these techniques in an hour, and then there's a ton of like FAQ videos, and I lead free Zoom calls every couple of weeks for anybody who has taken the course and would like to come and use the techniques together with me, and I answer questions about it. And this is like the most exciting thing in my life. When I learned these techniques, it started to enable me to start solving my life problems. I got re-regulated, even though I didn't have a word for it then. And then I could start solving these problems. And a lot of my problem was the way I treated other people. And so I am grateful for these techniques. I want to stand on the rooftops and say, I have a way to get all this, crunched up, traumatized feelings moving down the assembly line, processed, moving along, coming into present time and being able to have a new and more peaceful experience, to be more yourself. And yourself is a perfectly good person. Yourself, when it's not driven by trauma, is capable of being kind and loving and setting boundaries and saying no and, actually being harsh when it's appropriate. When it's appropriate, you'll have discernment. So that comes over time with using tools that help you re-regulate and process all the negative thinking up there, and with the support of other people. Now, you don't say it here, but why do I have a feeling that you're isolated, that you don't have supportive women? Do you have supportive women? So for women to have the support of other women is so powerful. And they can't just be anybody. They can't be mean people. They can't be people who denigrate your healing or make fun of your problems. People who are also on a path of healing, who are also flawed, like you, like me. These are good companions to talk about, things you're working on, to say, hey, I recognize that I was really harsh on my ex. If you go talk to people who are still in that world, they'll be like, oh, you can never be too harsh. You should be as mean as possible. I would just tell, I'd block, So you can get advice from those people, or you can get advice from people who are healing too, and start learning a more nuanced way to be fair and honest and kind and real. So with apologies are powerful. I learned this from people I know in Alcoholics Anonymous, where it's a huge piece of how to get sober. Is after a period of other steps and work, there's this step called the 9th step where people go and apologize to people they've harmed, pay money back, admit what they did wrong. And there's some guardrails around that to do it sensibly. And so here's the thing about exes. Sometimes you need to do all the work of preparing to apologize, but it's not always right to make contact with them. And I'll tell you the big dividing line. If they are in a relationship, or they might be in a relationship, do not make contact with them. Because if they have contact with you, and especially with the emotional content of an apology where finally they hear maybe what they were waiting to hear, it's disruptive to their relationship. So it's not a good thing to do to them. It actually could cause more harm. And above all, don't do more harm when you're apologizing to people. So sometimes the apology is to stay away. But here's something that happened with me one time. I knew that I could not contact somebody because they very likely could be in a relationship, an ex of mine. And I did all the work. And I went through and I wrote all the fears and resentments. I shared with my buddy. Do you know what a buddy is? A buddy is somebody who also does the daily practice. And you can read to them sometimes what you wrote, and they basically just witness it. You can ask them for their opinion, but they don't automatically give it to you. Sometimes you just share it with another person, and it goes a long way to help you kind of get clarity, and the dust settles. And you can kind of hear yourself talking, and you're like, this part's not reasonable. This part's more important than I realized. That's what clarity is like. So buddies kind of help you get there just by their existence. So you can also get a mentor, which is something more where somebody does advise. You could do that. And you run it by them first and say, this is what I think I did wrong. And you read to them what you wrote, your fears and resentments you have about it. You read to them and you can ask their opinion and you get a reality check, because there's a lot of temptation when you're apologizing, either to, just smooth it over and just be like, I'm really sorry. I was so, I was yelled at you and called you a dick face so many times in public. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I guess that bothered you, if I did that. We all know those types of apologies cause offense. They don't help anything. So a more proper apology is to be prepared, even if you don't have the opportunity to say it face to face, to be prepared to admit, I've been working on myself and I realized that the way I treated you was cruel and unkind. I remember even calling you names, and that's wrong. And I know that if somebody had done that to me, I would have felt demeaned and hurt, and it would have given me a lot of fear about whether or not to stay in the relationship. And I know that I caused you a lot of pain with that. I'm working on myself, and I am trying to develop the knowledge and the strength to never do that to people again. And I just wanted you to know that I was wrong, and I hope you can forgive me. And then you just let it go. And here's what happens when you say that to somebody, if you have the opportunity. And, with non-exes, with people who you haven't slept with, where it's not a big threat to their current relationship, you can have the opportunity to say that. But the elements that I just went through, I was like, hi, I'm working on myself. I realized quite clearly that I hurt you. Then you describe what you did, and you demonstrate that you understand what that was like for them by saying what it would be like for you if somebody did that. You remind them again, I'm trying to change that about myself, and I hope you can forgive me. You can say that, I hope you can. You don't demand forgiveness. You don't stick around until they say yes, they forgive you. They may or may not, and honestly, a lot of people, they'll say, oh, yeah, sure. No, it never bothered me at all. It can be very emotionally intense and kind of intimidating and awkward when you're having this conversation. That's why a lot of people never apologize. It is intense. It can be awkward, but it's very important and good for you to just admit honestly what you did. Because once you have that off your chest, and again, we don't take things off our chest when it would hurt other people. So you never say, you didn't know this, but I told everyone you know about that funny thing you do in bed, right? You don't say that. You never hurt anybody further, and you don't tell them things that would hurt them. So it's really, you're trying to give them peace about something. You're trying to show up honestly and show that you realize what it was. Because what happens when, especially in romantic relationships, when one person hurts the other person, is there's just inherently kind of a fogginess, a bit of gaslighty energy with that. So one person hurts another and the other one can't help but blame themselves a little bit. So you're setting them free and just be like, this is what I did. Now, for everybody watching, of course it's a two-way street. Of course, when you hurt somebody, there was stuff they did to you. But when you do a proper apology, you don't even bring that up. That is not your business to bring up. The relationship's over. There's no reason to excavate what they did. You are setting the record straight that you get it now, that you were hurtful and you're sorry. And so you can say, I hope you forgive me, but it's not a conditional thing. There's no need. They can just say, hey, get out of my face. I hate you for what you did. I never want to talk to you again. You just get out of their way. You just do that. You're done. The minute you say what you had to say, you're done. And with an ex, it's not appropriate then to go, hey, should we go have coffee? Don't do that. Don't do that. Just let the apology and the request for forgiveness stand, and then, lovingly exit. And that's it. That's it. We have no business hanging out with exes, especially when there was heartbreak going on, all right? So the exception would be if this is like somebody you were married to and there's kids or a house that you own together or things like that. So things do need to be talked about, but by the time now, 2 years later, you're having this awareness, it's, you don't want to get things all wound up again. And if you're not 100% certain he's not in a relationship, don't contact him. And in fact, I would bless you not contacting him in any case, just because when people have had their heart broken, it can be very disruptive to hear from the person again. So it really helps to talk to a wise friend, a mentor about that before you make your move to do it. But let's say you can't tell him because you know that he's in a relationship. or with people who have died. You can't. What you do is you do the work anyway. You prepare, you figure out what you would say, you write it down, and you have it there. So that's what happened to me one time is, well, when I first learned about how to apologize, I ran out and started apologizing like crazy to exes because I hadn't had any other healing. I just was like, is there some way? I was so ashamed of myself. But I really didn't understand what I had done wrong or anything. I just wanted everybody to like me again. And I was probably trying to stir things up. And so I wanted to contact everybody, and that was not received well. And then years went by, and I did more of the work of realizing what I had done wrong. And there was one particular person, like, I was never really into them, but I clung to them anyway because I just needed somebody. And, that really hurt them. It was wrong. And I had always been saying, I'm not in love with you. I don't want a relationship, but okay, we can kind of be together, sort of like this, And it just was terrible. It ended up really hurting them. And then when they left, it ended up really hurting me. So it was really sick. And I finally did enough work that I could see what it was and how selfish I had been, but I wasn't going to make contact. And then one day I was, riding my bike down the street, and they walked right out in front of my bike. I had to slam on the brakes. And I was like, oh, you, hi. And, and I said, I've been meaning to tell you. I'm so sorry. And I was able to say the complete apology. And they went, okay. And I left. And that was it. But I felt better. I could stop feeling ashamed of myself, and I could forgive myself. So that's what you had asked, Mila, is how does a person forgive themselves? And that's kind of how it's done. You need to take care of business, and you need to refrain from making contact with people, even if you're ready to tell them the truth. And do that with support from other people, and use tools to get clarity about what happened, so that you're neither, like, oh, I'm sorry, I did everything's my fault. You don't want to do that. Or like, I'm sorry you feel that way. You don't want to be that girl either. Okay? You want to be honest and real and accurate as to the best of your ability. And you're going to feel a lot better. So this thing where you said about soft women, I just want to say, I've been criticized about that before too. And I just want to tell you, as one strong woman to another, please don't worry about that. Work on your character, work on being a good person, but never question that there's something wrong with your femininity. Who you are is who you are, and who you are is going to blossom and express itself as you have less fear and resentment and less concern about other people's criticism of, come on. I remember I had these roommates once. I'd lived there for a couple of months, and one of the guys came up and said, the roommates don't really like you. And I said, why? He said, you don't have enough feminine energy. And I said, what do you mean? They said, well, you should make popcorn and give it to everybody sometimes. And I was just like, F you. I don't want. I was very weird. No, I was very weird. That's just other people's thing. And everybody's idea, gosh, being a woman, huh? Everybody has ideas about what that's supposed to be, but you are you. And who you are naturally, especially underneath all that's happened to you, is just extraordinary and beautiful, and is going to keep showing you over the years what's inside, and all these colors inside you, and abilities and talents and gifts, and the capacity to love. I can already tell you're capable, you're wise, you're conscientious, good things are coming for you. So forget other people's idea. Of course, different men love different kinds of women. Some women are very soft and that sort of conventional feminine, and some men really like that. And some women are not like that at all, and some men like that. I have a lovely husband, and he likes me. I'm like this. I'm like this. He doesn't like it when I'm the harsh side of that coin. I talked about that. When you're very strong and you're not in a good space, you can be very harsh, right? So of course he doesn't like that. But I've had a lot of time to grow and work on myself. So my strength is my strength. My strength creates crappy childhood fairy. I wouldn't be here without that strength. We must be ourselves. That's what healing is. You become more yourself. And, some people, they want to use authenticity as a, smokescreen for bad behavior. And we all know what that is, right? It's like, well, I have to disrupt Thanksgiving, for the whole family because I have an announcement to make. Well, it's not really strength. It's not strength. It's imprudent. It's a lack of wisdom. It's not always smart to just make a big scene. So wisdom starts teaching you when and how to have a conversation to set things right or to express yourself, and when and how to just show up and let things be. That's wisdom. So wisdom and strength. And I just, something that comes to mind for me is like some of the goddesses of Greek or Roman mythology, right? Look at them. The goddess of love herself, she's just like mighty. She's very, very strong and big. So you don't have to be soft. You don't have to change yourself. The last thing I want to talk about for you is this thing about pursuing remote work when you're not dating actively. I'm going to just flat out tell you, one of the best things that you can do if having children is what you want is to get married first. As somebody who spent 9 years as a single mom, I'm speaking from experience. It's like night and day to have a partner when you're raising children versus doing it all by yourself. That's just you. For a child, having only one parent can be, it's highly correlated with a lot of difficulties in life, no matter how great your mom is. If you don't have that other parent, there's a lot of hardship in store there. And so many of us here were raised by one or no parents, right? So I'm not knocking, I'm not trying to put down anybody. I'm just saying that you're in your 20s, you have the opportunity to make choices here. And I'm just going to really encourage you to do this the way that best supports children, which is to be married, to be in a committed relationship, to have that financial and emotional stability, and to marry somebody really great who loves you for who you are. Yeah, that's the most important thing. And if you're wondering like how you meet somebody like that, I have this dating course you can take. It's dating and relationships for people with childhood PTSD. And I couldn't get this information anywhere out there. But for people who have attachment wounds, and like, how could you not? My course teaches you how to set up guardrails for yourself so that you can really get information about somebody. You can get clear about what you want before you even begin dating, what you need for, like, if your dream is to be married and have kids, then there are certain characteristics that are must-haves and certain characteristics that are no way. And you've got to stop dating the people who don't have that. And I don't know, it sounds like you dated a nice person, so you're well on your way. But you don't want to waste time on people who are impossible and not aligned with what you want. You need to be aligned with yourself, honest with yourself about what you want, and capable of being honest with your partner about what you want. And then you can figure that out quickly and handle your relationship accordingly. That's how to do it. If you grew up in a crazy family like you, like me, nobody teaches you this. So here it is for you. It's called Dating and Relationships for people with complex PTSD, but that's what I talk about. And the link is down below always under the courses in the description section, also on my website. So I wish you well, Mila. I have a good feeling about you. I think you're going to go far. I think you're going to find love. And I hope every blessing of life comes your way. If you love this topic and you want to hear more about it, I've got a video that's about behaviors that come along with trauma that kind of push people away. You can keep working on that right here, and I will see you very soon.